So, have you ever wondered how we got from art that was all about God to art that honestly shocked the world? Well, in just the next few minutes, we're going to take a whirlwind tour through 600 years of Western art. We'll see exactly how that medieval devotion turned into total modern disruption. Let's dive in. I mean, it's a fantastic question, isn't it? You look at a painting from, say, the 1300s, and then you look at a Picasso, and it's like they're from completely different planets. So what happened? Why that massive dramatic change? Well, the answer is this incredible story of evolution. It's a story all about ideas and purpose and even technology. And we're going to break it all down by looking at three, revolutionary eras in art history. All right, let's start at the beginning, in the Gothic era. Now, to really get this art, you have to picture the world it came from, a world where pretty much every part of life, and yeah, every single brushstroke revolved around one single powerful idea, and that was God. So you've got these growing cities, right? But the cathedral, that was the heart of everything. It was the center of life. And art back then, it wasn't just for looking pretty. No way. It was a tool, a teaching tool. Its whole job was to tell the stories of the Bible to people who, for the most part, couldn't read. Because of that, the art from this time has some really specific characteristics. You'll see it's almost always about religious stuff, right? It focuses on big groups of saints or biblical figures, not really on individual people. You won't see a lot of nature or outdoor scenes. And getting the human body to look exactly right, that wasn't the point. What mattered way more than realism was symbolism. But then, right at the very end of this period, this painter from Florence, a guy named Giotto, shows up, and he does something totally radical. He looks at all these flat, symbolic figures and decides to give them something they never really had before: real, raw human emotion. You could suddenly see the grief, the fear, the joy in their faces. And this was a huge deal, a seismic shift. By giving his figures actual weight and feeling and making them look like they existed in a real three-dimensional space, Giotto basically set the stage for everything that came next. He was so incredibly ahead of his time that people often call him the father of modern art. So, what Giotto did wasn't just about breaking the rules. He was actually laying the foundation for the next massive era, the Renaissance. And with the Renaissance, the entire focus of art, and really of society, takes this huge turn, shifting from the heavens right down to earth. The word Renaissance actually means rebirth in French. And what was being reborn? Well, it was the classical ideas from ancient Greece and Rome. And along with that came a whole new philosophy called humanism. All of a sudden, humanity itself, what we're capable of, our brains, our bodies, that became the new obsession. And the change was just profound. Think about it. Gothic art was all about the group. Renaissance art celebrated the individual. Gothic art looked up to the heavens. Renaissance artists looked around at the natural world. The goal wasn't just symbolism anymore. Now it was all about achieving this breathtaking, jaw-dropping realism. And the superstars of this era, they weren't just painters. Oh no. These guys were masters of all kinds of things. They were the original universal geniuses. I mean, just take Leonardo da Vinci. We all know him for the Mona Lisa, right? But he was so much more than that. The guy was a scientist, drawing some of the first truly modern anatomical studies. He was an inventor, dreaming up things like the tank and the airplane centuries before they were possible. He was a sculptor, an architect, a musician. I mean, the list just goes on and on. He was, without a doubt, the ultimate Renaissance man. And then you had his big rival, Michelangelo. Now, he always said he was a sculptor, first and foremost, but the Pope had other ideas and gave him a painting job, a job that would turn into one of the single greatest achievements in the entire history of art. Okay, first, let's just try to wrap our heads around the scale here. The ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, it's over 900 square meters. To put that in perspective, that's like painting the ceilings of almost 10 average-sized houses, all connected. And on that absolutely massive canvas, he painted 343 individual figures. It took him 4 grueling, painful years, and a lot of that time was spent lying on his back on scaffolding. It's just this monumental testament to human will and creativity, and it perfectly captures that Renaissance focus on the ideal, heroic human body. So, for hundreds of years after Michelangelo, artists just kept getting better and better at realism. They totally mastered anatomy, perspective, how light works. But once you've perfected something, where do you go from there? This mastery led artists to a new frontier, and a new generation started asking a very different kind of question. And that question was this: what else can art do? If a camera can capture reality perfectly, then what's the point of a painter trying to do the same thing? What is art's new job? And that single question, well, it sparked the births of modern art. All of a sudden, everything was on the table. The old rules, gone. Artists just started experimenting like crazy with new colors, new shapes, new materials. The goal wasn't to copy the world anymore. It was to interpret the world, to express some inner vision, or even to just ask questions about what a painting even is. A perfect example of this is Cubism, which was pioneered by Pablo Picasso. So instead of painting a person from one angle, like you're just standing in front of them, Picasso decided, why not show all the angles at once? He'd paint the front, the side, the back, all at the same time, kind of fractured and put back together on the canvas. It was a totally new way of seeing the world. Okay, wow, that was a fast trip through 600 years of art. So let's just zoom out for a second and put all the pieces together. When you look at it this way, you can see a really clear progression, right? We started in the Gothic era, which was all about devotion to God. Then we moved into the Renaissance, which was driven by humanism and focused on man and the natural world. And finally, we landed in the modern era, which is all about experimentation, focusing on pure ideas and form. So think about it. Art went from telling God's story to capturing man's world to exploring the mind itself. What an incredible journey. Which, of course, leaves us with just one big question. What's the next great leap?